Sometimes I just want to fit a ton of photos on one layout. And for today's page, I decided what I'm going to do is instead of adding flip flaps or maybe doing a grid design where I can squeeze lots in, I'm going to size down my photos and do a little bit of a photo collage. So you can see I have a whole bunch of photos here that are 2 inches by 3 inches. My page today is all about my daughter's love for creating. She has been in the studio with me a ton lately. She just loves to be in here when she's not at school and just creating and making, drawing, all kinds of things. And in order to fit these in, I decided to make little collages like this. So I did this in the Project Life app. You can choose whether you want to have 2 on a 4x6 or 4 on a 4x6 or 6. And I decided to go for the 4 on a 4x6, which gives me 2 inches by 3 inch prints. And then after it prints out on my 4x6, I just cut it down into the individual pieces to get that smaller size. You don't have to use the Project Life app. You could use any other kind of collaging app. There's lots out there, but that is usually my go-to. So my plan is to fit 10 photos on here in kind of a bit of a collage. I might have them overlap a little bit. This smaller size gives me nice flexibility for how I want to lay them out. I have some landscape, some portrait, and I'm just going to get them down on the page, and then I can always kind of tweak things and decide on different spots for them. But this is generally what I'm thinking. Have it a little bit closer to this side. And the reason that I did that is because typically I would always move it over to the left-hand side and make it go right. But then I end up with a lot of single page layouts that are meant to be the left page instead of the right page. So this time I am making it a conscious effort to make this one that will go on the right side of my album so it can be in there beside something else. I don't worry too much about having a perfectly coordinated page next to it. Some stories, I just need to downsize them into a smaller footprint so that I can fit more into my albums, especially kind of everyday life stories like this. I don't know about you guys, but my albums, my yearly albums are getting super full. I just need to start downsizing some stories that don't need to be a double page layout. If you are going through this or you're kind of feeling the same, let me know. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know that I'm not alone. Some stories just need a smaller footprint so that we can fit more in our albums. Now, what to do with the background? What I'm thinking is do something sort of artsy, kind of painty or splattery. Because this is such a creative page, I have so many colors going on here. We got reds, blues, purples, pinks, greens, and several shades of those colors. It's not just one shade. There's some orange in her dress down here. So I'm thinking I'm going to bring in some inks. So I have Highland Heather, Pretty in Pink, Blueberry Bushel, Azure Afternoon, Real Red, and Basic Gray. That is based on the colors that stood out to me from the photos. It's not all of the colors, but it's the ones that I'm going to focus on and ones that I thought I could make blend together pretty well. If I'm going to be mixing them wet on wet, I don't want colors that are hard to blend or you get gross colors when you mix them. Let's go ahead and jump into the background and see what we can come up with. I'm going to start off with a very loose painterly background. I've pressed my ink pads onto some stamping blocks to get the color to paint with, but you could also use reinker if you have that and mix them down with some water to dilute them. You could also use watercolor paints or whatever it is that you have on hand. I'm painting with a round watercolor brush and I'm holding it by the end or close to the end so that I don't have a ton of control and I get more movement in my painting. This background design is inspired by a class I've been taking on Skillshare. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, which is the largest online learning platform made for creatives like us. Whether you want to learn knitting, painting, graphic design, photography, art journaling, and so much more, Skillshare has something for everyone. I used to art journal all the time, and I love the freedom of it, so I thought I'd bring in a little of that in today's project. My inspiration came from the class Watercolor Abstracts, using watercolor and mark making to create interesting abstracts by Denise Love. She has so many different classes on Skillshare, it was hard to narrow it down to just one. I enjoy her relaxed approach, which helps me loosen up and have fun while I create. Her attitude of not taking anything too seriously is really helpful to me when I get too focused in on all the little details. Whether you want to dig deeper into a creative topic or you're looking for a gift idea for that hard to buy for a friend or family member, a Skillshare membership could be just the thing to get you started. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. Plus, you can gift Skillshare memberships to your friends and family. Get started today and see what you can create. Now that I've let my page dry, I've laid out my photos just so I can keep track of where everything is going to be on the finished layout. I'm bringing in this really cute little cluster of stars. I love little cluster stamps like this, and I'm going in with the coordinating inks, kind of stamping in the same area where those colors are already on the page. And I stamp multiple times so that it kind of fades off to nothing. I have some darker ones that are full strength ink and then lighter and lighter, and they just kind of fade off. I love the look of this, and especially when you're doing sort of bright colors, it's a good way to soften those edges and add a little bit of extra pattern too. I do have splatter on here that I did in coordinating colors as well as the pencil marks. And I'm actually going in with my eraser right now. I used a watercolor pencil, just dry watercolor pencil for my little scribbles, but some of the areas I got a little too carried away and I just used a white eraser. It doesn't remove the marks completely, but it really lightens them and lets them go more into the background instead of being a focus. Denise did the scribbles on her abstract pieces, so I thought I'd give it a try. I liked it, but I did get a little carried away. So I'm glad that I could use the eraser and soften it and kind of make it blend in a little bit more. I kind of went all over the place and I think I added a bit too much. I'm going in with one more stamp and I'm using basic gray ink. I'm stamping off and using second and third generation. So I'm getting much lighter imprints of this stamp, but I'm just adding another layer of texture, this time not in coordinating colors, so it does stand out just a little bit more. On Denise's projects, she actually used a graphite pencil and did tiny little hash marks. These lines really reminded me of that, but it's way faster, and you know how much I love stamps. So it was the quick and easy solution to that technique. My background is dry and I've laid out all my photos. I went ahead and matted them because I felt like they needed some separation. So we have a nice white border around all of them. I might overlap them even more to let more of the background show, but they're kind of in their general location where I want to keep them. My title I have cut from the mini alphabet die, and it's just sitting here. It's not stuck down yet, but I did cut it from the Pretty in Pink, which was the light pink that I used over here. And then these pretty stars here, I was debating what color I wanted to cut them out of. I started with black. I might change my mind. Those are from the Swirled design dies. There's some really fun, we got diamonds, ovals, a star, and then there's some other star dies in here as well that I can cluster around them. Flowers, just some pretty images that are easy to do clusters with. And then, of course, the stars that are in here and the little lines I got from the Swirled Design stamp set. If you don't want to do like a watercolor background, there are also these stamps here which you could stamp and create a background from without doing the water part of it. There's even splatter, so if you don't want to be splattering with a paintbrush, you could stamp some splatter on as well. I love these kinds of sets. I usually get a ton of use out of them, adding them to my backgrounds, adding them to clusters. I've also pulled in these rub-ons. These are from the annual catalog, which is nice because that means they're around all year. There are silver and gold of the designs, and I'm debating maybe adding some of the silver splatter, kind of splatter marks around here to my background. So I've put those out just to see if that's the direction I want to go. But first off, I want to see if I need to add anything else to my background. So I'm going to put my journaling over here. I have a nice, fairly blank spot. There's a little bit of like heavier splatter here, but I think if I use a black pen, that should be fine. And then I was debating putting one like up here. That's why I had stamped this kind of off the side. But now I'm thinking I maybe want to bring this in and have this a little bit more like tucked in right there. I'll need something to go in here, whether I want to stamp like some words or maybe just bring in some other star die cuts, or I could even bring in some silver rub-ons. Maybe that one right there, I could use like part of that design and add that in. And then of course we want to have our 3 points, so I should put one down here somewhere. I am tempted to bring in a little bit more of this blue and kind of extend it around so that we have some color on this side. Otherwise, we're gonna have a big white area because both these photos have white backgrounds, and then we have a lot of white right here without any color. So I'm thinking I'm gonna do that. And I'm thinking I also might wanna add a second color to my title. Maybe I could bring in the real red and just ink blend a little bit to deepen them up and make them pop. The red kind of got lost in here. It's mostly getting covered by everything. So I think I'd like to add a little bit more of it over here. I'm just gonna slide my mat out of the way a little bit and work on some scrap paper here. I am just holding this with my hands. I could have put them on a sticky mat or something, but I'm just gonna quickly do it. I'm blending from the bottom about halfway up each letter. I've cut more of these letters from scrap cardstock and I've gone ahead and glued them together. So I have 3 layers stacked up on each other. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more glue and top it with the actual colored piece. I just like the extra weight that this gives my title, pops it up off the surface, and I think it just gives us a little bit more presence on the page. So it is a tiny bit tedious because you have to go and glue all those individual pieces together. But for me, it's worth it in the end, just to have a title that has a little bit more presence, but I like how small these letters are. They fit in really nicely with the rest of my page without kind of overpowering everything. I'm gonna go ahead and keep sticking these letters together and then I'll be right back. I'm in the process of gluing everything down and I'm just going one piece at a time, and I'm using glue for everything. Sometimes I find my ATG tape does not like any kind of moisture or bend to the paper, so I find it better just to use glue for this. I don't want to get going too high here. I am overlapping my photos and trying to give it that kind of collage feel to it. I'm just sort of making it up as I go along. And I'm not gluing the whole backs of all the photos because I want to leave some corners where I can slip things underneath if need be. Still have my kind of empty corner over here for my journaling. So I made sure not to stick anything there. And I like how this is looking. So just some glue on the back of my mat to hold it. I ended up adding a little bit more color over here, and I've just been letting that dry while I glue everything on. I tried not to use too much water so that it wouldn't take a super long time to dry. I think I want to bring these stars up a little bit higher so that it joins these 2 parts together. So before I stick on those last photo mats, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the same blue. Then we'll just go and add some more stars. Everything here is attached down, and now I want to work just a little bit on my clusters. I have my rub-ons, and what I like to do is actually cut the pieces out from the background so that I can work with them a little bit more easily. As soon as you take off this sheet, this is sticky on the back. So if you set it somewhere that you don't want it to be, it's probably going to start transferring. So it has kind of like a slippery sheet behind it. I always keep those 2 together while I'm playing around and figuring out where it's going to go. So I think something like that is what I want to do. So I'm just going to push that down and then use my bone folder to just go ahead and rub that on. Now you can always lift it up and check on it, make sure it transferred completely before you just rip it off like a Band-Aid. It's kind of good to roll it back slowly, have a little peek, make sure you're getting most of it. Sometimes there'll be the odd little dot that you missed or whatever that won't transfer. Something like this isn't that big a deal, but if you're doing a more solid design, you kind of want to make sure you got all the pieces. And there's quite a bit of splatter on these. I just kind of chopped it up, and I think actually I'm going to want to cut this right here so that I can move these pieces closer together. So let's transfer this first. And I'm making sure not to set this one down because it's a good chance it will stick wherever it touches. There we go. Ooh, some beautiful shimmer and shine. I will hold it up to the camera so you can see it better as well. I wanted something else here for words, so I went into my stash and I found this sticker. It says Happy Moments, and it's in purple, and I think the purple is a pretty good match. So I'm going to use that over here. But before I stick that down, I want to add some rub-ons behind where it's going to go. I love how rub-ons work. They're just so pretty and so easy to do. Let's see where we want this exactly. And then we need some silver over here as well. What you do in one spot, you kind of want to continue that on. It's not one solid design because this is all like little splatters and stuff, so I can kind of rotate it and get it where I want it to be. Now the only thing I'm still needing are some more stars, and out of that die set I do have some smaller stars that I can add because I think having just the one star is nice, but I think I would like a couple more just to fill in. This die is connected, but they won't stay connected. I'm just trying to see what I want to do here. I'll cut these out of some black and see how that looks. I tried out my little black stars. I like this better. It fills in a little bit of the space and makes the embellishment cluster a little bit bolder. Now the only thing that's really still kind of bugging me is here I went off the side because I was thinking I was going to put my embellishment cluster over here. I would like to balance that out. So I think I'm going to repeat the same stamping down in this corner, and that way, even though it wasn't 100% where I intended to go with it, it's still going to balance it out and look like it fits in. It's not a major thing. I don't want to make this any bigger by adding color to it. I debated adding some blue stars or something, but I don't want to do that. So I have basic gray I'm stamping off to make it a little bit softer. And just like that, we have something that kind of matches that, and that's all I need, because then it looks a little bit more intentional and not like it was a whoops. Now last step is just to add my story here. The trick is going to be making what I want to say succinct enough that I can fit it in this space. My journaling is done. I just hand wrote it. I debated putting it on sticker paper and putting it over top, but I decided just to hand write it. It's so much quicker. It just is like a little note straight to Isabella. I actually addressed her and told her how much I love her creativity and watching it grow, as well as seeing her curiosity and willingness to try new things is an inspiration to me, and I hope that she will always keep creating. I'm going to lift this up here so you can see the flash of the metallic, as well as all the details, all the layering of the stamping. It's just so much fun. You could definitely add more pencil marks instead of the stamping if you rather do it by hand. But I love how this came together, and I think it's such a fun background for a page that is about creativity. And you can see things are not perfect, but that is the point of it, is not to have perfection. It really is just to have fun and to play. And I think we all need a little bit more of that in our creating, and all this texture and detail. I can't wait for Isabella to get home so I can show this to her and see what she thinks. If you want to recharge your creativity and be inspired in the new year, remember you can check out the Skillshare free trial. And if you enjoyed this video, check out this next one right here. I'll see you again soon with another video.